Welcome to the Feminine Waters podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine.
Welcome to the
Let's
Feminine
dive in.
Waters podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine. Let's dive in.
Where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Feminine Waters podcast. I'm Chiquita.
And I'm Tiffany.
And today we will be doing an episode. It's going to be a Keeping It Chaste episode, and it's going to be titled, How to Tell a Potential Boo You're Waiting for Marriage. Let's get into it.
This has been always something that's on my mind when I've dated, and it's like, I don't know, it's evolved over time, because at first I didn't care. I was like, first date, I'm not having sex with you. Just so you know, like, I'm waiting for marriage. That was, I just didn't think anything of it, like, especially because, at least the stereotype or whatever of guys, expecting things after dates, after they pay for dinner. It's just like, no, not only am I not having sex with you, I'm not kissing you either. So, yeah.
So okay, let me ask you this. When did you first start dating, and when did you first have this conversation? How old were you?
So I was 18 in college. That's when I had my first date. I can't even remember telling this guy. I'm sure I did. I just don't know. I don't know when. Not sure. But I remember telling the next guy, who was his friend, actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and especially when you're in it was just easy for me, especially in college. People were just sleeping with everybody. Everybody's sleeping in people's beds. I mean, I was also sleeping in someone's bed, but I was just like, nothing's happening here. You're like, oh, okay. So yeah, it was just something simple. And then one of my cousins, after many years, we were just talking about like guys and stuff. She's just like, why do you tell them that? I was like, because they need to know. I'm like, they don't need to know right away. They don't need to know on the first date. Once you tell them, that's like all they're thinking about. And I was just like, you know what? That's true.
No, I've definitely heard that too. And that's why, for me, I was always super nervous. I'm like, how am I going to navigate this? Because, I didn't become sexually abstinent until I was like 32. So, it was very, very, very new territory for me. And, I had always heard the typical stuff. Like, if you tell a guy that, he's not going to be interested in you anymore, like, we're too grown for all that. Like, all these things I used to hear. So all of those things like planted seeds of like nervousness, anxiety, insecurity. So I was like, yo, how am I going to navigate this? And it took a lot of trial and error. Like, I'll say that, because in the beginning, I was like, all right, well, let me tell a guy like as soon as possible so I don't waste his time, and then it's an opportunity for me to know like if he really wants to get to know me for me, or if he just wants to have sex, which is true. I mean, all this stuff is true, and then like as I started to kind of like do some research about it, because I realized like more and more guys were kind of like staring away, which is fine because what's for me is for me, you know what I mean? So that's perfectly fine, but then there were also the guys who were like, oh, okay, that's cool, blah, blah, blah. And then like we're getting to know each other. And then after a while, they kind of dip off. So then I'm questioning myself, like, is it because I'm abstinent, or did he just not like me anymore? Or, like there's just all this stuff going through your mind. So it's a challenge. It's not the easiest thing to navigate. And like I said, it's trial and error. And I won't know if I have it down right until I'm with the guy that I'm supposed to be with. Then I'll be like, ladies, this is the actual recipe, but we're all figuring it out as we go along.
Yeah, I think once I just decided to stop telling people that, I think I was like 26. Yeah, I think it was 26. And actually I was like going out with quite a few people at that time because my sister-in-law was just like, you need to just say yes to anybody who asks you out just so you can experience different things. And I was just like, I don't know about that. But then I tried it. So I went out with like quite a few people. And then I realized like, yeah, I really didn't need to say anything. I think I was kind of seeing somebody for a couple of weeks and it never came up. Um, I dated someone for like 3 months and it never really came up aside from I think like us kissing, and then he was just like saying that he wanted to like take it slow because I was really important to him or whatever. So I was just like, okay. So I never even told him like, well, I'm waiting for marriage anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was always it just didn't come up in like several instances where I was just like, oh, this is great. Like I don't I don't need to tell anybody. Because then things kind of just ended without ever going there anyway. So I think with my ex, I think I told him, I actually don't even remember when I told him, but he was just like, oh, that's cool. He's like, I have friends who are waiting. That's cool, whatever. So I mean, I've never had like really a well, you know what? I have had a bad reaction. I have. Well, not even really, because like the guy was such a punk to even say anything to me about it. But when I was on Coffee Meets Bagel, I think it was 31 or 32, um, I started talking to this guy, and he was like, we had a lot of things in common, whatever. And then we got on the phone because we were just like chatting in the chat box of Coffee Meets Bagel. And then so we finally like talked on the phone, and I can't remember how it came up, but it was something that he said, to which I was just like, well, I'm waiting for marriage. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, oh, one of my friends is waiting for marriage too. Okay, that's cool. And then whatever, the conversation went on. And then the next day when I was on Coffee Meets Bagel, I saw that he unmatched with me. Like he just didn't say anything. And I was just like, wow, that's such a punk move. He was,
Seriously.
supposedly grown. He was, like 38. I'm like, you could have just said, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And so many guys, like, their communication skills are just so poor. I mean, and maybe with women too. I don't know because I don't date women. So, but like, I'm just, with ghosting culture and cancel culture and all this stuff, it's like people cannot just be open and honest and tell people like, I am not interested and this is the reason why. And they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. And I've learned that, what I've heard from guys is like, like we don't want to hurt you guys' feelings. Like we don't want to hurt girls' feelings, but it's like we're much stronger than you think we are.
Yeah.
Like it's so much better. Like we get so much more closure if you just say, hey, I'm not interested anymore. And this is the reason why. And then it gives the person an opportunity to, I mean, I can't fix the fact that I'm waiting until marriage. Like that's not going to be fixed. But if it's something else that I did to kind of turn you off, then I can work towards fixing that for the next guy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, and so for me, I do my best now to make sure that I'm not canceling or ghosting guys either, because I've done it. I'm not even going to lie. Like I've done it, but I know how it makes me feel when men do it to me. So I'm open. I'll tell people like, hey, I'm not interested anymore. And this is the reason why, and it's like, let's be adults about it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I want to go back to what you were saying about just not mentioning anything, like not bringing it up. And I think that that's honestly the best route to go, because I had a series on IG Live a few months ago called Keep Your Celibacy in Check, It's Cuffing Season. And on one of those episodes or one of those sessions, I invited a male friend on who's abstinent. He's not waiting until marriage, but he doesn't really believe in like having sex with somebody unless he's in like a serious committed relationship or whatever. So I was asking him about it, and I was like, so when do you think, like as a guy, like when's the perfect time for a woman to tell you that she's waiting until marriage or like abstinent or whatever? He's like, honestly, like I don't think she needs to bring it up. Like, you know, like let's just see how things go. Like, let's take sex off the table. Cause his mindset is like, that's for like younger people, like younger like kids think about like, oh, when are we going to smash? Like, when are we going to have sex? But like older people are more so, well, our age, I'm not old, but mature. We're more focused on like, who are you as a person? Like, do we have similar interests? Like, what's our vision for the future? And then it's like sex eventually comes up. So I was like, all right, like, thank you for telling me that, because he was somebody who I actually kind of like got hooked up with. It didn't end up being a romantic thing, but we were getting to know each other. And I kind of told him off the bat, like, I was like, look, I'm waiting until marriage. And he was like, even when you told me, I was kind of like taken aback, like, dang, like, when did we get there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why are we talking about sex already? Like, and I was like, all right, well,
interesting.
that's a gem.
Yeah. Okay. I like that he was like that. Like, wait, why are we talking about this already?
It was literally the first time we ever hung out, and I said that.
Yeah.
We had talked on the phone for like maybe like 2 weeks, but it was our first like in-person interaction. I told him,
yeah. Yeah, that approach served me well, I think. Just not saying anything until something comes up. But yeah, after that whole guy unmatching me thing, I was just like, F this. I was so pissed. And I put on my profile in the description, I am waiting for marriage to have sex.
That's good.
And don't waste my time and I won't waste yours. And and so I was like, at first I was nervous. I was just like, is this something I should just say on my dating profile? But I was just like, yeah, because I'm just not gonna keep doing this of like talking to people and for no reason. And so the guy that I did end up going out with quite a few times after that, I think I mentioned him in the last episode about honoring your standards, and he was, you know, a divorced dad of 3 and stuff. And I ended up liking him even though I didn't want to. And so this is something that he saw when he sent me a message and wanted to talk to me. He saw that it said I was waiting for marriage, all that stuff. And then it just ended up being like the reason that he wanted to stop seeing me. He's just like, yeah, I just really don't think I can do that, having been married for such a long time. And I don't know if I could, you know, do that. And just like, you knew that before I ever knew who you were. So why is this the issue now? I was so upset. Yeah.
I mean, it could also be the fact that, you know, in this era of online dating, you know, it could be that another woman came his way and she's not waiting until marriage. And that's the thing. Guys are like, hey, I have options. I mean, we have options too. You know, but I think that's what it is too, with the lack of communication and not telling somebody why you're not interested anymore. It's like, look, if I swipe on somebody and I think she's just as attractive as you are, and she's not waiting for marriage, or she's, you know, has something that you don't, like, I'm gonna just like move on over to the next, which is fine. Like, it's your life, you're allowed to do that. But bruh, but he told you, at least he mentioned it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right, but at least he had a conversation with you.
Yeah. Well, no, it was a text, but yeah.
Oh, a text. Okay. Sorry.
It was a text from another 38-year-old man.
that could have been a phone conversation. Had you guys already gone out and stuff?
We'd gone off for 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. So then he definitely shouldn't have told you over text. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on.
So yeah, those have been, I guess, the the bad experiences of that for me, but mostly it's been fine. I waited again with like my fiance, but also because I wasn't talking to him like that in the first place. I wasn't talking to him as any romantic prospect. So I forgot when it came up. Actually, you know what? It came up when we were doing the podcast, which I think was the second podcast about about how like abstinence can whatever help with your spiritual gifts or something. The podcast we did, I think it was episode 2. And I was talking to him about it right after we like filmed it. And so we were talking about that. And then it came up and I was like, yeah, well, I'm waiting for marriage. And he's just like, oh, okay. So yeah.
Hey listeners, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. Because first, it's free, which is one of the main reasons why I chose it. Let's be real. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And I use both ways in order to edit this podcast. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more podcast platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's really everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. Like I'm on here doing transitions, and it's just so simple, adding background music to things. Like it is so easy. So if you're ready to start doing your podcast right now, just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
I'll ask you this in regards to your relationship. When you told him that you were waiting until marriage, did you see like things kind of like speed up?
No. Actually, now that I think about it, that was not the first time I told him that. That was, I think, the second, just to reiterate my point. But I did say that to him again to reiterate my point, but that wasn't my first time telling him that. Actually, he was already so in the future with where he thought we were going and talking about, when we live together and all this stuff. And I was just like, like none of that would happen without marriage. I wouldn't live with you before marriage. I wouldn't have sex with you before marriage. And he's like, oh no, like that's what I mean. He's like, I don't want to do that either. He's like, remember he said, I live a very blessed life. I don't need any curses upon me. Like all that stuff I did in the past, but I don't want to do that again. And so I was just like, okay. But yeah, but that was the first time. He was already on that train. So, and then, when I talked about the podcast, I reiterated it just to make sure. Because again, we're speaking in two languages. But yeah, he was already there. But I have had that experience where I feel like people wanted to, talk about marriage after like this guy that I wasn't even dating. I was just like kind of talking to him. I kind of just liked him as a friend, but he was always trying to have it go somewhere else. And he was like super like, he would say super sexually explicit things to me. And I was just like, can you stop? And he's like, we're going to get married. Like, when do you want to get married? Like 6 months? He's like, I'll wait 6 months. I don't know if I'm going to wait longer than that. I was just like, I don't want to date you. I had to keep telling, I don't want to, I don't think that was a whole nother story. Cause I don't think he could even like handle that because like nobody like rejects him. Like he was like this guy that women threw themselves at. And I wasn't interested in him like that. So, but yeah, he was something else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I asked you that question because I know like, you'll hear people say like, all right, if you're keeping sex off the table, then it's more likely that a guy will marry you, because he's not distracted by sex. You're not distracted by sex. You can just kind of like be in the moment, be in the relationship, like feel each other out, really vibe without that distraction. So, it can propel things forward. Yeah. So that's what made me ask you that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I mean, there's so many people who are not getting married and it's like they're already playing, playing house. So it's like there's nothing that they're going to gain out of marrying you.
Right.
Unless they want that commitment for themselves, unless that's something sacred to them.
Yeah. And that's something I had to learn, because in my previous relationships, I was like living with guys, or I guess they were living with me, to be honest. But like guys were like living with me, we're having sex, or like doing all this stuff. Like I was cooking for them and like, you know, doing all these wifely things. And it's like, of course he's going to be comfortable with this for 3-4 years, because it's like, I already got everything I need. Like, why do we need to get married? That's when people like to say, or guys like to say, like, it's just a piece of paper. Like, it's like, we're already married, blah, blah. But it's like, nah, you have to leave some things for the marriage. And I had to learn that you cannot operate as a wife until you are a wife. Like, not even when you're a fiance. Like, there are wifely duties for the institution of marriage, and husband duties for the institution of marriage. Like, if you're doing things outside of that, then it's very easy for things to get confused. So
yes, definitely. Yeah, cooking was definitely one of those things too. I was just like, I'm gonna stop cooking for these dudes. Like, what am I cooking for them for? Like, I am not their wife.
yep.
Man can barely call me his girlfriend. Why am I cooking for him?
Totally. So something else that I noticed about myself is that it's easier for me to tell a guy that I'm not interested in that I'm abstinent, rather than it is to tell a guy that I am interested in. Have you had that experience at all?
No.
Okay. For me, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, because it's like, I don't see abstinence as something that should like make a guy go like running, screaming, a mature guy. Like, I don't think that it should. I think that it should make a guy more intrigued, right? So I don't know what it is that I don't know why it is that I do that with guys that I'm not interested in, where it's like, I'll kind of put it out there, like, yeah, like, I'm abstinent, like, to see if they'll just kind of like make their way out, so I don't have to have the like uncomfortable conversation about like not being interested in them. But that's not good, ladies and gents who's listening to this. Do not follow my lead. It's something I'm working on, and it's not okay. But but yeah, like, a guy that I am interested in, I'm like shaking in my boots, like, how do I say it? When do I say it? Like, but I've really become more comfortable. Like we said, not bringing it up right away is key. And then, and for me, I know now that I won't bring it up to somebody unless I actually feel as though like I can see a future with them. Like, to me, that's the only reason to bring it up. If it's a guy that you're just casually dating and it's like, oh, this is just fun, like, we're hanging out, I don't even see the need to have that conversation. But if you can actually see a future, then it's like, all right,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just telling any and everybody.
Yeah.
And it's really a lot more common than people think. I was always attracting those types of friends who were also waiting for marriage, who are virgins. And, you come across some people who are just like, nobody in their 20s, nobody in their 30s, nobody, whatever, even when we were like teenagers, nobody's a virgin here. Like, what are you talking about? It's just like, no, a lot of us are. Like, they just think like virgins don't exist. And it's really nice to see, like, sometimes when I'm on YouTube, like, I'll see like people in the comments like, oh yeah, I'm waiting for marriage too. And I'm 30 and I'm still waiting for marriage. And like, it's just nice to see. And like younger people, I can see it now too in the comments, and like, oh, I'm 20 and I'm still waiting. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to have like people actually talk openly about it. Like, I remember like Tamara Mori always talking about waiting, and she waited. I mean, her husband was who she slept with, but it was pre-marriage. But then they remained abstinent after that. But
oh, I never even knew that. I didn't know she waited. Okay.
Yeah, they had I guess she would say slip up one time, and then she felt bad, and then they waited. But she was like 29 when she lost her virginity. So yeah, there's just a lot of there's a lot of people doing that. It's just like people don't talk about it because like sex is so glamorized and just like talked about like it's nothing. On every show. Like, even back in the day, like watching Seinfeld, watching Friends, like it was just like you didn't have sex, you went on 2 dates already, and it's like, what?
Right, exactly. And I totally agree about how refreshing it is to see people talking about it openly and being proud about it, because, you know, there's a level of shame, you know, that kind of hovers over that. And I saw that a lot. And it actually really broke my heart when I watched Married at First Sight. And Iris, you know, she was a virgin. And it just was so like, it really annoyed me how the whole show was trying to make it like, oh, what? You're a virgin and you're 27? Like, you know what I mean? Like they just it's like this level of shame. Like, dang, like, why can't she be like glorified for it? Like, to me, it's something that's rare. And I think that people should be like, oh my gosh, like, that's dope, rather than making her feel ashamed. And, or I felt, I don't know if she felt ashamed, but I felt like there was, you know, people were shaming her.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't even watch that season, but I believe I've seen several comments about it, or heard several comments about it. Was her husband Keith or something?
Yeah, Keith.
I've seen so many people say like, oh, they did him dirty, like he needs a do-over, they should have given him another wife. Like, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, it's crazy. And to me, it's like, he did her dirty. Like, even though, I mean, I can empathize with Keith. I don't think that he's a jerk or was like mean or whatever for what he did to her. I just think that he's young, because 27 is young. I mean, me being 35 now, you know, if we get back to when I was 27, I was young.
Yeah.
And, you know, he probably really wasn't in the position where he wanted to teach somebody how to have sex. You know, like he wanted somebody who was sexually experienced, because there's also that narrative out there too, where it's like, if you're with a virgin or if you're with somebody who's like, you know, waiting or whatever, that the sex is not going to be good. And to me, that's just not true. Like, I feel like that's such a big lie that's being broadcasted like all over the planet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, once two people come together that are in love, there's no way the sex can be bad. Like, there's no way. And if I have more experience than you, it's my job to be like, hey, can we try this? Right? Because I have the experience. Right. So we try it, and then we see if we both like it. And if we don't like it, then we don't do it. You know what I mean? We try something else. So I don't, you know, and of course we can blame pornography and like, you know, all the crazy stuff that's on TV now. Like, stuff is wild on TV these days, primetime TV, sex wise, you know, but it's like, don't model your sex life after something that's false. Like, that's television. That's not real. Like, be creative and, you know, develop your own sex life and watch how awesome it could really be.
Do you find that, I guess it's hard to ask because you are a Christian, but do you think that you would still be abstinent if you weren't a Christian?
No. No, I wouldn't. You know, but for me, it was like a whole journey, you know, where I had to come to the realization that the reason why I was going through so much turmoil is because I was idolizing relationships, and I wasn't doing them the right way, you know. So my first step in learning how to have godly relationships and eventually a godly marriage was to abstain from sex, because then I was able to understand and realize how it's so much easier for you to create a connection with God, because like this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to say it's like you're cleansed, if you will, like you don't have so many different people's energies in you, and you're not taking on their traumas and, you know, stuff like that. Like, you're kind of like a clean vessel for God to really like work in, right. You know? So, yeah.
Yeah. I would get that question, like, or just like a statement like, oh, you're a virgin because you're Christian. And I'm like, no, I mean, that's part of it, but like, I'm a virgin because I want to be. I don't like, it's weird. Like, I don't really like people touching me. Like, I'm kind of a touchy-feely person, but like, I don't like people touching me. Like, I have to be really close with you and comfortable with you. I'm like, I was like, I just don't even see that happening if I don't want people like really touching me like that. So I was just like, no, like even if I wasn't, I was like, I'd be waiting, because I'm not trying to just share myself with people just because I like them. Like,
Right.
okay, I've liked a lot of people.
Yeah. Right. And for me, it was like, I was conditioned to believe that I could not be in a relationship without sex. If I was not having sex, then a guy would never stay with me. You know, like that's just all I knew, you know, that you have to have sex with a guy and the sex has to be good. If it's not good, like this guy's gonna wander off into this, like, you know, just like leave you. And so with that mindset, it's like, all right, it was just like, it was routine. It was normal to me, you know, because nobody ever explained to me like why I should wait until marriage. You know, I didn't know anything about, nobody told me about soul ties.
Right.
You know, nobody told me about like exchanging trauma and, you know, different emotions and feelings through sex and, you know, all this stuff, and like forming bonds with somebody that's not your husband. And, you know, I didn't know about that stuff. I didn't know that stuff even existed, you know, until I really came into like my relationship with Christ and doing the research and trying to figure out, it's like, all right, changing the game plan. Like, look, however I've been doing relationships in the past has not been working out for me. It's been extremely painful. Like, how do I change this? Because there's people out here winning in relationships and I'm losing. So like, what do I need to do to win, you know? And then that's when I was able to learn those things. But I want to ask you, you said that you don't like people touching you and stuff like that. Do you have any idea of like what that's rooted in, why that is?
I don't know. I think I'm just like very used to being isolated and by myself. So as people like I'm really comfortable with. I'm very like introverted, so I don't like to be around a lot of people to begin with. So yeah.
Okay. I was asking because I feel like that's very like empathy of you, where it's
Yeah.
like, I was thinking like maybe not even, maybe unbeknownst to you, you don't like people touching you because it's like, I don't know what energies like you're bringing around me, or like, you know, when you touch me, like what are you transferring over to me? Like, because I know for me, like as an empath, it's like I take on everything. So I was like, I wonder if that's the reason why she feels like people are going to be transferring their energies and she don't want that.
No, it's not that. It's just like a comfort level thing. It takes me a lot to feel comfortable with somebody. So touch, yeah, I have to be really, really close with you.
Yeah.
And I think like with being abstinent in relationships, it's really an exercise in like your attention span and you know, I mean a lot of different things. I love the way that I am able to really know people, and even in situations where things didn't work out, which is, well, all of them except for my current, it's like, you know, I know these people, they know that I really like listen to them, and I knew them, and I would hope that they you know, knew me well, because there's no distraction there. There's no and then when you get married, I just think it's beautiful that like, okay, if it's not great, you work on it together. Like you have your life, that's the whole point. And I think just especially like with the societies, just like, you know, instant gratification, they just want stuff now, they want it the way they want it now. And such like this disposable kind of a mindset. But you have the one person that you're just gonna work it out with and like try different things with, and you know, it's supposed to get better over time. And if you're already just like starting there, then I don't know where you go, you know.
Hey everyone, this is Tiffany from the Feminine Waters podcast, and I am a self-development coach. And I help souls that are yearning for authenticity and peace in their lives to experience personal freedom and to show up boldly so they can live authentically and reach the people that are waiting to benefit from their soul's mission. So if you want to know anything more and see any of my work as well, go to mellowvibes.com. That is mellow, MELLOW, and vibes with a Y, that's VYBES.com, and check out everything. Hope to see you there.
So, have you ever dated someone or were getting to know someone that was also waiting for marriage?
No. That used to be what I wanted when I was like really, really young. I was like, oh, I want a virgin too. And then I was just like, well, this is really hard. Finding a virgin male or an abstinent male. But my former best friend who we, entertained the idea of something else. He was down for that. Like, I remember when we, we're just talking as friends. He was just like, oh, I would love if someone told me that they were waiting. Like, he's like, that would take the pressure off of me and I would feel a lot better about it. And I would be able to wait too. It's like, so that was interesting that he said that maybe guys feel pressure to have sex. So, but other than him, no one previously.
Me either. I haven't come across a guy that, and I know they exist.
Oh yeah.
I don't know any personally, but like I've been in like forums and stuff like that with them, like on Clubhouse and stuff like that. So I know that they actually exist. They're real people. And then this girl I went to college with, she had a really cool IG series too called Celibate Men Do Exist. And she was interviewing different like celibate abstinent guys, and they were cute too. Like, not like, and that's the other thing. Gosh, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but that's another thing too. Like, people make it seem like, oh, it's like only like loser guys or like guys that are unattractive that are going to be the ones that are like abstaining, and that's just not the case. And that's why I found her IG live so refreshing. I was like, thank you. Yeah. But going back to what I was saying, they exist. And for me, I would love to meet a guy who is already kind of like on that wave, because to me, for some reason, that's more attractive to me. Like a guy that is like, physically, that I'm physically attracted to, but then he's also waiting for marriage, because that shows that you have discipline and that you have self-control. And to me, there's like nothing more attractive than that in a man in this age, because we're just talking about instant gratification and all this stuff. You know what I mean? And then so if I know that you have this level of discipline and self-control in your singleness, I know it's going to be easier to transition into like marriage life too, when you're still going to be like, women are still going to be coming at you, or, you still might see a woman that you're attracted to and might want to, but the fact that you've already like developed that muscle, you know what I mean? And self-control and discipline, it's less likely that you'll cheat on me like in the marriage, So that's my hope.
Yeah. And I like that you said it is a muscle. It's a self-control muscle. Sure. Yeah, I actually, okay. College, yes, I knew abstinent males from my Christian fellowship. But I remember in when I was working as a caseworker, I was playing matchmaker, and one of my coworkers, I was trying to hook up somebody from one of my life groups with somebody, and one of my coworkers had a friend, and he was like, yeah, he's a virgin, and he's 34, and he was a Black male in Philadelphia, and was a virgin.
Wow.
Yeah. And
how old?
34.
I wonder if he's still around.
Well, that's another thing. The thing was he only my friend from my life group was a white girl. He only dated white girls. So that was
black guy that only dated white girls.
Yeah.
Okay, just clarifying. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So, but I also did run across not virgins, but like celibate men, within my poetry circle in Philly. Yeah, there was this one poet that my cousin loved. She thought he was very attractive, but she was just like, oh my gosh, every time she saw him. And I remember he said it before, like, yeah, I've been celibate for 8 years, and I was like, yeah, this is great. That's awesome. But yeah, I've definitely met some celibate men within the poetry community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to start hanging around some poets. You know, I dabble in a bit of poetry myself, you know. But okay, yeah. So going back to my friend, I just want to mention this, the girl who I said I went to college with, and she was hosting a talk. She had kind of transitioned her show from IG Live to Clubhouse. And there was a guy that came into the room. I think he might be like 32 or something like that. And his name is Dozie. I think it's Dozie Ezema. Yeah. He's a Nigerian guy. He has a pretty large following on Instagram. He's a YouTuber, all this stuff. And he's a virgin. And he's very attractive, like super tall. He's like 6 something, like football player build, like, you know, dark skin Nigerian, like just like universally cute, attractive guy, right? Like, yeah. So he had come into her clubhouse, and, you know, he was saying some stuff. And so she wanted him to be a moderator on the stage based off of what he was saying. And so they're having good conversation, you know, whatever. And she had never heard of him. And so I messaged her on the side, and I was like, because I know she's waiting until marriage. She's not married or anything like that. And she, you know, wants somebody who's waiting until marriage, blah, blah. So I messaged her on the side, and I was like, you've never heard of Dozier? Like, first of all, like, I'm surprised you never heard of him. And then I was like, look at God, like, bring in this like beautiful man of God who's a virgin, like, onto your clubhouse. Like, you're not trying to shoot your shot or whatever. And she was like, girl, like, I don't know if I want a virgin. And I was like, dang, I was like, that's real. Like, wow. Like, there are women who want men who are waiting until marriage, but if they've been sexually active before, they don't want a guy that's a virgin. And I thought about that. I was like, dang, like, would I want a virgin? I don't think I would mind, because, like I said, I'm big on teaching. Like, you know what I mean? Because even when I was having sex, I would teach. Mm. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like anything new to me, but I thought that was really interesting. I just wanted to drop that. Yeah.
No, I've definitely thought about that too. Like, because as I said, back in the day when I was a lot younger, I was like, oh, I wanted a virgin. And then it just, aside from not even finding virgin guys, it's just like, yeah, like what? I mean, I guess you just figure it out. I'm like, if we both don't know what we're doing, I guess you're just going to figure it out.
Totally. But, yeah. Absolutely. It's because it's natural. It's like breathing. So you're going to figure it out. Like, that's just what it is.
But also I like
especially if you don't have anything to compare it to.
Well, yeah. I also like that you brought up the narrative of like virgins being like whatever weird or goofy or unattractive, and like I've even seen that in like shows, like I think they had some reality show on TLC. It was something about virgins like getting married, or some of them were even like they didn't kiss till their wedding day, and then that was literally the most disgusting thing I ever saw. Like, it was like they had never, anyway, it was gross, but but it was the most like awkward people ever. And it's like, thanks for this representation. Like, I mean, you know, that's, you know, their reality, but like, there's so many attractive people who are virgins who are abstinent. And like, I hate that narrative that you're either unattractive or that like nobody wanted you. And I've had somebody say that to me before, like, oh, so like nobody wanted to have sex with you. I'm like, excuse me, it was my choice. There's a ton of dudes I could have slept with at this point, but I don't want to. And like, how
Right.
dare you? Like, you don't have that, authority over your own body to say like, I don't want to have sex with you. Like, oh, it has to be like, oh, they didn't want me. Like, no, that's
No.
not how it works. That's just like I hate that disgusting narrative.
Yeah, for sure. Should we end it out with some takeaways? I'll let you, because you've mastered it because you're engaged. So, I'll let you leave them with the takeaways of, because we want to make sure we're answering the question.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
how to tell a potential boo you're waiting for marriage. So
yeah.
I'll let you do the
Okay.
takeaway.
So to conclude on how do you tell somebody you're waiting for marriage? I'd say, I guess the best approach was just to wait until it naturally comes up. You don't have to like blurt it out on your first or second or third date. It's just whatever, like, just wait and see how things progress, because, not even if you're proud of it, like I was always like a super proud virgin, like that's why I didn't care. But even if you're like really proud of that, everybody doesn't need to know everything about you. So, yeah, just wait until it naturally comes up. If you get to a point where things are serious, or you want it to be serious, then that's something that they would need to know. And don't feel bad if they are not okay with it, because that's also their choice. And, they're doing you a favor if they're not going to be what you're looking for. So like, never sweat any of that. Like, the person for you is going to be like, I'm down. Like, this is great. And they'll work with whatever they need to work with in order to stay with you. That's kind of what I have to say about it.
I love it. And this is from an engaged woman, ladies and gentlemen. So I will definitely be taking her advice, and I hope you do too.
Okay, well, until the next time, have a
See you guys.
have a lovely day, evening, all of that. Ciao.
Bye, guys.